we recruit around about 150,000 new team members globally each year. So you need to ensure that those team members, first and foremost, have the skills and abilities to do what they do. That certified program is so magical because it's not an L&D decided that this could be a good idea and let's go and do it, but the leaders facilitate it. The business embraces it. The board
Mhm.
um, talks about it, as you saw.
Mhm.
It's just such a holistic thing, and this is what I love. This is where I think L&D is, right. It's not we do L&D in that little corner over there because we're L&D professionals, but we enable this company to bring learning to life for our people.
I think learning is what you do every day. And when you stop learning, I think you stop living.
We are moving into a world where there are less answers and so many more questions.
Learners will be the ones that will inherit the world, not the knowers.
We live in times where change is always present and transformation is a never-ending endeavor. Mindset, skills and expertise matter more than status and resources. It's time for a new normal for learning.
Yes, it's time for a new normal for learning. And with that, hello and welcome to our new Good Morning L&D format, your wake-up call to change learning. I'm super happy that you're with us today about DHL Group's journey to become a skill-based organization. And I'm super happy about this session today because for those of you who don't know, DHL is one of the biggest employers, of course, in Germany and one of the most international ones. So DHL, I once heard it, DHL is even more international than Coca-Cola, for example, which I would have never thought. And just think about the challenge, how to build learning, how to build this idea of becoming a skill-based organization in such a big organization. I think it's insane, and I'm super happy and excited to have the person with us here today who's responsible for all that and who's been on this journey for quite some while. So give a hand together with me and welcome Meredith Wellard, who is the VP of Talent, Learning and Growth at DHL Group. Meredith, thank you for being here with us and very happy to have you.
Well, thank you for having me. I'm delighted to be here. It's a great opportunity to talk about learning.
Yes, to talk about learning, but also to talk about how learning is changing, right? And also with that, the role of learning and development. And I really can't wait to get a little bit of Meredith wisdom in that. So can you talk a little bit about the role that learning plays, in DHL Group, and maybe also how this role has changed over the recent years?
Yeah. So, I mean, obviously, as you mentioned, DHL Group is huge. We're in every country in the world, 600,000 employees. So,
Wow.
um, yeah, exactly. The majority of our team members are working in the front line, delivering parcels, working in warehouses, handling the planes, and ensuring that your shipments get where they're meant to be safely. Um, and I think here's probably where the discussion about learning really starts, is that when you have that many employees, and just as a small example, we recruit around about 150,000 new team members globally each year. So you need to ensure that those team members, first and foremost, have the skills and abilities to do what they do. So to keep them safe and secure at work, to ensure that our customers are looked after, and that we are compliant, and all the things that need to be done. But I think there's another really important part that we discovered around about 15 years ago in DHL Group, and that was actually learning plays a really important role in bringing the hearts and minds of our team members into the workplace. So it's not just about I know how to handle a parcel carefully and safely, but it's also I feel passionate about it. I know why I'm doing it, and I see the perspective. I see the big picture. I love working for this company because I know what role I play in it. And here's where we really found a home for learning is not just in what you do, but how you do it and why you do it. And when you bring that beautiful sort of, tripod together, suddenly learning takes on a whole new meaning. And I think that's why it's important to us. Sorry, I should
Yeah,
say one more
and I
thing.
think
Sorry,
it resonates a lot with me because it reminds me on a presentation I once, or a keynote I once saw from Frank Appel, your former CEO. I think he left last year at DHL Group. And I think I got two pictures that I took actually at this event. It must have been 2 years ago. And here you see Frank Appel, proving, I think, what you just said, by showing his learning passport, corporate learning passport, right? It's like a passport that all of DHL Group employees have, right? Where they can really show or prove their learning progress, right?
can I just
You have it with you. Wow.
I have mine with me.
Wow. And you're actually traveling, right? You're in India.
And I'm traveling,
Yeah.
yes. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. So I think this is strong, right? I think there is a lot, I think, in this picture, right? Having it with you, making it part of yourself, identifying with it, making it something, also the top management, lives up to and proves. And at the same time, it reminded me because of this slide, because what you see here is on the left-hand side, the engagement scores, right, of your people survey in 2008 and 2022. And you see on the right-hand side, the results, that in the same years DHL Group created. And what you just said about getting people hearts and minds and hands somehow involved into this company and identified with this company. I think this is what shows engagement, right? Or this is what engagement is made of.
Yeah, yeah. What's interesting about this slide, and of course we keep this updated year on year on year. There's even one now for 2023, and heading into 2024 we'll have a new one. But we also have a third graph that we apply to it, and that is the overall performance of the company. And so not just engagement, but performance and certified take up. So we can really see a very strong correlation across as the programs build and grow, as more people do them. We get better engagement, we get better performance. And then when we introduce new parts, like like a new leadership program, for example, or a new brand program, then you see an uplift. A little bit like a marketing campaign. It's fascinating
Really?
for those of you that are in marketing. When you see marketing and then you see the impact on sales results, it's the same type of thing. You see the rollout and then you see the impact on engagement and performance. So it's
Wow.
quite fascinating. Yeah.
Yeah, and so to summarize it, the role isn't maybe this kind of training catalog or training calendar. No, it's really the engine kind of the business success, or it's the kind of precondition for a strategy or a strategic shift a company goes through.
Absolutely. You can't imagine. I think you have to have that sort of very operational, more training level. Like you definitely still have to have that. And also for compliance reasons, you have to have that. But I think what you can't imagine until you've actually seen it in place is the power that having this sort of vision. And Ken Allen was the CEO of DHL Express who had that vision to say, if we help people understand why DHL does what it does, and you know who we are as a company and why they should love this company. He used to say, if we can convince people to walk into a bar or a coffee shop and say, I work for the most international company in the world, and I love it, then we're really onto something. And he saw that learning was the way to do it. Not not teaching them to love the company. It's not about teaching them to love the company. It is about giving them an experience, which is a learning experience, a whole person learning experience. And in that, they receive the messages of who we are as a company, how we feel. And what that really means in a practical sense is all the messages are the same across the globe. All of those messages are linked to our strategy, our customer, our commitment to great service delivery. and a set of attributes that are somehow like our values, but more than values. They're the attributes that you see manifesting everywhere in all these learnings: speed, passion, can do, get it right first time. That's in all of those learning experiences. And it doesn't matter whether you go through that program in Peru, or Portugal, or wherever else in the world. It's the same program in a different language with some different photographs and things to make it more local, and facilitated by your own leaders. And I think this is the other big thing, is understanding that that program, that certified program, is so magical because it's not an L&D decided that this could be a good idea and let's go and do it, but the leaders facilitate it, the business embraces it, the board um, talks about it, as you saw. It's just such a holistic thing, and this is what I love. This is where I think L&D is, right. It's not we do L&D in that little corner over there because we're L&D professionals, but we enable this company to bring learning to life for our people, and there's where you see the results. um,
Wow.
yeah,
I
I
think
get on my soapbox.
no, I mean, I think for some people listening, I believe they would be like, it sounds too good to be true. It's a miracle, right? But since I know you for quite some years, I know it's real. But for me, the interesting question is, how did you change this narrative on learning? And you
Yeah,
spoke already about the different stakeholders, like employees, taking maybe more ownership, leaders,
yeah,
taking their role here, the business making it integral, right? And
yeah,
there is so many things I think that need to change in order to
yeah,
tell the story like you just did in this beautiful way.
yeah,
How did you change this narrative?
yeah. So I think first and foremost, what's really important is learning and development is not short term. We were talking
Yeah.
about this before, right? For me, learning and development is never oh, well, we do something in the next 12 months and that solves all our problems. To really have an impact. And I grew up in the days of, Peter Senge and these learning gurus who really talked about learning organization as something that we could achieve if we wanted to. It,
Mhm.
I think, because it's such a big task, those guys disappeared off the radar a bit over the years that followed, but should be right back in there right now, because in order to achieve what we've achieved with certified, it takes years. It is not something that takes a year or 2 years. I think the first time we really understood what gold we had in our hands was probably at the 5-year mark, where we could see that step shift in performance, that step shift in engagement. But it took that vision from the beginning to say, and it was actually came off the back of a very strong use case, a very strong L&D use case, was that we had sold off our business in the US, and that had come at some reputational impact. But we still had a lot of employees there. We'd sold off all the domestic business, and we were getting a lot of bad press. And the CEO said, you know what, we should really find a way to convince the people who are still here in the US of this amazing international company that we have. And how can we do that? We could teach them some stuff, train them some stuff, and we could give this amazing experience. And that impact was so significant. And it was just well, not small, it was still a large use case, but it was smaller, right, at the time. He said, oh, look how that worked. That was amazing. They love the company now. They're performing better. They're more engaged. Let's do this globally. And that was the bit, right? Having the CEO go, this is incredible. Let us do this globally. And then he pushed that. He pushed a global drive. But what was really interesting is how to get on board all of those managers and everything. And we had to adapt and adjust as we went. And in the beginning, it was simply gamifying it. So we basically made it a competition. Who could roll out the certified program? We had one course, which was 2 days long. Who could roll that out fastest and proudest? And, we gamified it. And actually, it was I think it was Australia who rolled it out first, and then the Middle East rolled it out to the whole region first, and it grew from there until in a 2-year period we had rolled out to all employees in the business, the program, and then you start to see the impact. But we didn't stop. We said, okay, now managers need it now, and just kept going and going and going. But each time adapting and adjusting a little bit to respond to what the learner, the user, I was about to say, but the learner really needs, both in terms of change management and in terms of the content and experience. And I think the last piece of the puzzle was this is DHL Express at the time, was going through a period of quite poor financial performance. So this is normally a time when companies, close off all the doors, stop buying cookies for the canteen, and, of course, learning goes. In actual fact, the message that was sent out and then followed was, we will stop everything. We may even have to, downsize in some parts of the business, but we will not stop the certified program, because the certified program is the very thing that is going to help our people be the best that they can be moving forward after, this difficult phase. And for me, that was like, wow, I've learned something here, because don't stop the learning piece, because what that says is learning's not important. We said we're going to give you this wonderful program, but then we just stopped it as soon as it became a bit hard. No way. Keep going, keep going, keep going, keep going. Cut other things, not learning. And I guess that's where we
so
started.
interesting, especially in these days, right? Because I see with many companies, they are exactly at this point, right, where the economic outlook is turning a little bit off, right? And they would be like, okay, let's stop everything we did here in learning. Super interesting. And I think it brings us also to this question that you also said in a conversation earlier. You get asked most, right? You're a lot on conferences, of course. And the question you get most is this, of course, the question of return on invest on learning, right? And I think the answer connects a lot to what you just shared, because it's a question of the time frames you look at the impact, right?
Yeah. I've often thought that this ROI discussion, and don't get me wrong, I think it's important. Everyone has to be able to describe the value they contribute. But I think in learning in particular, there's a big difference between contributing value to an organization, having an impact value-wise, and having a return on the cost invested, right? I had an experience not so long ago where I was talking to someone about their learning provider, and they said, oh, yeah, we got a really good deal. It's really cheap, but we can't get people to use it. And I said, yeah, that's because you got a really good deal, and you're saying it's really cheap. Actually, it's the most expensive learning you've ever invested in, because nobody wants to use it. Why don't you spend a bit more, make it a bit more brilliant, and then actually see that people are consuming it and changing their behaviors as a result? And then don't just run it once, but keep running it and whatever else comes with it, and then track the impact over a long period of time. Follow the lessons from, marketing and brand and some of these other back office functions that don't have a direct impact on revenue, to show the impact that you have long term, and report on it all the time, frequently, in every meeting. Talk about the impact, talk about the result, but don't expect that you're going to be able to say, we spent this, we got that, tick, wonderful, because I think that's not really what learning's about, especially when we know how long it takes for people to develop skills and apply them and, invest in the organization those skills.
Yes, and as you said it, I think it's the same with investments in R&D, with investments in your brand building. And I think no one questions it in that same way, right? But I think also because the other departments, whether it's R&D, whether it's the marketing, they would just cut off the conversation and be like, well, that's bullshit. Let's not talk about it, right? It's an investment, full stop, right? And let's talk about it in 10 years, right? But that's so hard for HR people, right? It's so hard because no HR person would say no to this question.
No. But you know what I think it is a little bit as well. Is I know for sure that brand and
Mhm.
marketing and probably R&D as well. I know they get their budgets challenged and they get asked to do things. I think the difference is, and I'm generalizing because I do believe there are some amazing HR
Mhm.
people out there, but there is a tendency to fall into defense mode.
Mhm.
Um, and I don't think marketing and R&D fall into defense mode. I think they go, "Oh, this is what you're going to lose not doing this. We're going to fight for it or
Yeah.
find another solution." But they don't go into, "Oh, I have to find a way to, prove it." No,
Mhm.
you don't have to
Mhm.
find a way to prove it. If you know your stuff, then just talk about it a lot, and that way others get convinced. I think.
So good. I mean, jumping back in your journey, right, with DHL Group. So we learned was the certified program, which really was a game changer in the appearance and understanding
Yeah.
of learning. And you didn't stop there, right? I think this was kind of the starting point, I would even say, right? Um, what
Yeah.
steps followed, right? And I think there are some, like,
Yeah.
the marketplace and so on, that I definitely want to touch. But what would you say were the steps that were following and that you would maybe put at the same level, like the
Yeah.
certified program, in terms of, the impact, the appearance, and the way it changed also the
Yeah.
perception of L&D in
Yeah.
DHL?
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. So I think, as you say, the certified program was the starting point where people became aware
Mhm.
of how valuable learning is. It expanded, it went across all of our divisions. Now every division is certified. One thing about certified that we learned was the importance of having an identifiable learning brand. So what certified brought to people was this almost, I am allowed to learn. It is okay for me to learn and I can spend time learning. And then when you extrapolate that out a bit to some of the, let's say, adjacent activities. So we have a program we call First Choice, which is a continuous improvement program. And First Choice is not, a learning or a training program. It's a whole mindset shift around how we approach customer, for example. And then we connect first choice to certified and suddenly it becomes more powerful. And then we also have other learning, right? So certified is about the work skills you need to do the job you do today. Then we have other learning, which is more personal development learning. And we let's bundle that into a place as well. And we call that learn and grow. And now we've got sort of first choice, learn and grow, certified, making up this landscape, but very clearly positioned and very clearly articulated to the business what it is, where it is, how it is. And then you add on the extra, oh, now we've also got the employer brand, right? So if we're talking about our employee value proposition, learning is a big part of that. Growth is a big part of that. So why don't we connect some of our EVP strengths to our employer brand, which you should do anyway, by the way, if you're in brand, and then position that to the external market. So we've it's kind of built out and out and out and
Yeah,
out.
yeah. I'm just smiling because I found this always very intriguing on your title, right? It's VP of Talent Learning and Growth at
Yes.
DHL Group, right? And there's this, your company grows when your people do, like, and it shows, yeah, this is the understanding of learning, of my
Yeah.
role, and I guess also of most of the company and their perspective
Yeah.
on learning,
Yeah.
right?
I mean, look, I'm in the very fortunate position that I am the strategic head of
Mhm.
learning, right?
Mhm.
So I
Mhm.
get to talk about these wonderful conceptual things
Mhm.
and influencing stakeholders at a senior level. There is, of course, a very important sort of, meso and macro
Mhm.
layer, micro layer that needs to be considered. And I think it still requires, and just jumping back to certified for one
Mhm.
second, it
Mhm.
still requires that you have outstanding administration of training, reporting of training. You need to push training attendance. You need to ensure that your
Mhm.
facilitators are well trained and skilled and engaged and recognized for their contribution. So you do have to have that sort of operational layer humming along really well. And then you have to have that middle layer, really supporting, promoting, We have something we call certified touch points, where the middle layer might do a sports event and then they'll have like a certified award or something, using the fact that learning doesn't just happen in a classroom, but it happens across all parts of our business. You get a certified sticker stamp in your passport if you have been with the company for 5 years, for example. And that's nothing to do with learning, right? But it's recognition that you will have learned over the last 5 years more than just certified things. So it's making it everything and nothing at the same time. So you've got the front layer, the middle layer, and then of course you have to continually cycle the strategy through all the time. What does certified mean, today, but what does it mean in 12 months? But what does it mean in 5 years? It's still an important discussion that has to be had. We actually have a board that it's called the certified board that makes up all the certified representatives from each division so that we
Wow.
don't lose sight of that. Now, back to your question. Sorry, that
No,
was
no,
just
no,
a bit
no,
of a
no, that
side
was
point.
super helpful. Yeah.
Because I don't actually own certified. It's owned in a part of the business called engagement and enablement, but I have learning. So then I have the learn and grow piece, and that's connected now to certified. I sit on the certified board, and I also have all the technology that supports learning. So I have what as you said, we've just implemented the career marketplace, which is now, as of today, about 540,000 people from our company have
Wow.
access to this career marketplace, which includes and recommendations for jobs, for career pathing, for learning experiences, for learning course content and delivery, for mentorship, for networking, as you like. It's all AI enabled and makes life very easy for the team members who simply have to share their skills and suggest what they'd like to have as a career path, and then from there it's all automated, and the skills
Yeah, I
piece has
mean,
really made my life so easy.
yeah, and we definitely gonna dive into this because I think that's a topic many organizations are into right now, and I think it's a little bit chaos. I feel moving through the market here.
We don't have a dominant design yet, for sure. There's no dominant
no, no. I
design
think
yet.
it's still in this beta version, but I think you
Yes,
started
yes,
this
yes.
quite some time ago, right? I mean, we met at Unleash in
Yeah.
Paris, I think 2022, I guess. So, and there you
so,
were
yeah.
already in the middle of running pilots and so on.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
maybe before we dive into marketplace, you brought a little video from I think your Facebook where we found it that introduced it, the idea of the marketplace, just to bring everyone at the same page what marketplace, opportunity marketplace means in the DHL world, right? So
Long time
let's take a look
ago,
at this.
our
Just a
people
minute.
were presented with multiple options to develop their career. While the content was rich and vast, navigating through the sea of opportunities proved to be a challenge, making it difficult to find the perfect fit. One day, a transformative solution was born, one designed to revolutionize the way our people connect with opportunities at DHL Group. Introducing Career Marketplace, your personalized one-stop shop for career growth. Simply tell us what you're good at, your aspirations, and our AI provides you with top recommendations. How does it work? The more information you provide, the better the recommendations you receive. Whether you're looking for a new role or want to upskill in your current one. Our career marketplace ensures that every opportunity is perfectly aligned with your aspirations. Benefits? There are plenty. See how well you match to jobs, explore training for your aspirational role, be more visible to HR and managers across the group, and much more. Say goodbye to endless searches and hello to a brighter future with Career Marketplace. Your skills, your career, your journey at DHL Group starts here.
Oh, I
I
haven't
see you
actually seen that
smiling.
one. That's a really nice one. Yeah.
You haven't seen it?
No, that's the
No?
first time I'm seeing it. It's lovely. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
yeah, I think you're smiling a lot because I feel it sounds pretty easy, but it's not, right? And I think you know the path that you had to leave behind you to get to such a easy, funny video, showing a career marketplace as if it has been always there, kind of, right?
Yeah.
So let's maybe dive in there. Why did you come up with this idea of a career marketplace at first, and what solution, what problem, is it solving, in the DHL Group,
Yeah.
and then how, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Like that. How long did you say we had?
I have a lot
No.
of time. No.
I think so I think it started with the whole recognition that the world of work is changing. So this is pre-COVID. We were having conversations about what people really want from work. Obviously, we developed a real commitment and engagement in learning. We recognize it was getting harder and harder to attract talents, to bring people into the business. The markets are getting tighter. They were getting tighter then, they continue to get tighter. We have 600,000 people. We literally could rely on our own market as the most important market for developing talent rather than going to the external market. And so I put forward a talent strategy proposal, which was based on a very strong build approach, saying a very bold line, which was we want to have a perfect market that is liquid, that is ready with skilled employees, that is better than the external market, that all of our roles, the first choice is going to be an internal person. That was my bold statement.
Wow.
And then everyone liked it, but then I had to actually come up with something to answer that question. And the initial thing that we went with to the senior management team was a mock-up, a click dummy actually, that was, we were calling it at the time Talent Tinder. And the idea was that, and that mock-up was such a hit that people were asking me, so can I have it implemented in my organization? I was like, oh my goodness, it's just a click dummy. Like I don't actually have a tool yet. But so we went out to the market looking for where can we find these tools. And while we were out there, it became very clear that a lot of the early sort of engagers in this area, the Fuel 50s and the gloats and these ones, they were using skills as the matching piece, right? And this is very interesting. As we looked into it, we realized that skills, if you could get the skills piece right, using the AI, the rest actually falls into place really well, right? Obviously, we want a great user experience. Obviously, we want a great marketplace. But in the end, all of that was based on skills. So we changed our tack a little bit and started looking for a really good skills engine. And this was pre-COVID, still pre-COVID, and we went and assessed something like 38 different potential skills engines until we found one we liked. And then crash, COVID hit. And I thought that it's all over. It's all over Red Rover now. Like, this is the end of it. Actually, the opposite happened. The business turned around and went, wow, we are going to need to find new ways to train people because we can't bring them into classrooms. We are going to need new ways to recruit people and grow people, and we need to make it fast, push the marketplace in. And so they were very keen to get that career marketplace up and running sooner rather than later. Nevertheless, it still took us 4 years, really 5 to where we are today to get it, out to all of the people in all of the countries everywhere. But yeah, it's been an amazing journey. It's really something, and we see the response of the employees to it. They love it. And that video, out of interest, why I haven't seen it is because this is not the center pushing down something that nobody really wants. This is the divisions, the countries, the regions grabbing something that they think they can do something with and creating their own videos, following global guidelines, following global, sort of, there's nothing off brand there. That was a beautiful video. And I think that's the important thing, that they have to feel they own it. And the same with learning, as people have to feel they own it. It can't be something pushed from a corner office somewhere.
Yeah. Yeah, and I mean, I feel like it can be the next certified moment, right? Or maybe it was already the kind of next certified moment in your journey, right? Where, something happened that, changed or can change everything in terms of how learning is perceived, how, people take ownership for their careers, how leaders, take ownership for skill shifts, happening in their business, in their teams. Because now there is this language, to talk about. I sometimes also feel, that in many organizations I talk to, L&D and business didn't find a language to talk with, right? One are talking about AI and I don't know, big skill shift, or not even skill shift, new technologies. Let's call it just new technologies. Yeah. And then there comes learning, and they talk about learning, and somehow they do not find this common denominator, right? And I think it can be skills, right? Because this is somehow the middle ground here.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then there is the technology piece, right? That I think you introduced, but at the same time, it's a big shift also in terms of culture, in terms of leaders, not being this talent hoarder any longer, understanding, that it's a talent, that belongs to DHL Group, and that this has benefits as well, and so on and so forth. So tell us a little bit about the implementation, process, because I think this is where many organizations are somehow struggling with these days.
Yeah, and I was just talking to a company today about it, actually, because I learned a lot from others, and I'm so happy to pay it forward, because this is where we have to be really smart in Learn&D and learn in L&D and learn from each other. But we, from the very beginning, while I got all excited about the technology, one of the things that became abundantly clear from day one is we ran a proof of concept. So we got 3 different platforms, and we tested them with 100 users each. And those users turned around at the end of those test cases and said, please don't take it away. I love it so much. Don't take it away. I really need this to help me develop my career. And the interesting thing was, at that point, I realized, this is so much more than just a tech solution. This is something that's really hitting the hearts of people. I'm always a bit embarrassed to say one of the people actually shared that nobody's ever listened to me about my skills before. And I was like, oh no, that's a bit of a problem. But they felt heard. And I think that was the important thing. We realized then it's an upside down project. We first had to deal with a lot of the change topics before we implemented the technology. We had to remove the barriers to movement, like you have to ask your manager if you want to apply for a job, or you have to stay in your job for 18 months if you want to apply for a job, or I need to fill out a form and give that to HR if I want to apply to a job. What rubbish. It was easier to apply for a job at UPS than it was with one of our own internal divisions, So we had to unravel a lot of that. It wasn't as hard as you might think, right? There actually aren't that many talent hoarders. HR thinks there are because they're the loudest voice in the room, right? But in the end, most managers are great leaders and they do the right things. And it was about giving those people the power and removing the voice of the loud naysayers. And to do that, I needed HR on our side. So we really needed HR to be not saying, we can't remove that rule because, this one manager here is going to yell at me. We gave HR the power to say, really? You might need to look at why your people are leaving you rather than, yelling at HR because they didn't have to fill out a form in order to apply for a job. So sorry, that was a long way of saying,
No.
Indeed, it's a big change topic, and not so much about the technology, although you have to have the right tech. The change topic is really the big piece of the puzzle.
Yeah, I think I always feel like it's a big role change, for an individual, right? To realize, oh wow, I have a skill profile that I'm responsible for, right? I have to take ownership for. So I have to design, my career. I have to create my own learning journey instead of, waiting for someone to come to me, right? So I think this is a change in role. Then the leaders, suddenly have to, become this kind of, skill shift manager, who has to get more engaged in talent questions and take more responsibility for that as well, in terms of, just feeling like, I have my talents, I hired them, now they are mine, right? And
Yeah.
this idea of freedom, I think, freaks some of them, I think, out still
Oh,
today.
absolutely. Yeah, yeah, yeah. But once you
It-
get a taste of it, you love it. And the other thing is the impact it's had on some of our diversity conversations, because now
Mhm,
suddenly we have the ability to make these positions,
mhm,
push them to the desktop of all
mhm,
employees who fit the profile. The
mhm,
machine doesn't know whether they're male, female, American, or Zimbabwean. Like, the
mhm,
machine just knows, do they have the skills or not have the skills?
mhm,
And the earliest successes, and we actually using some of our successful movers as sort of influencers in the
mhm,
business. And many of those early ones were actually women from different parts of the world. So,
wow.
it's
Mhm,
fascinating to see how you can not, there's surprising things that pop up.
mhm,
It's not just we get a lot more learning. Learning increased by people on the career marketplace,
mhm,
online learning largely, around 100% on the previous year's
wow.
learning consumption. Now, we haven't deep dived into what's behind that. That's,
Mhm,
that's on the roadmap to do in the next few years. But what's interesting is that there is a passion for consuming jobs and learning and networks and everything, like
mhm,
everything that makes learning organizations a learning organization is popping
mhm.
up, and that's making me so happy. It's
Yeah.
amazing.
We were talking about role changes, right? Like, on an employee level, on a leaders level, but I think also on an L&D or HR level, right? There are certain,
Yeah,
changes, a precondition, right? And a prerequisite to this idea of a skill-based organization. I think one is also about letting go, right? And giving
yeah,
responsibility into the organization and leaving this idea of being this gatekeeper, right? For who is allowed to learn what, who is allowed to move where, who is allowed to become a leader, who not, right? I mean, it's a
yeah,
lot, that I think HR people, if they really want it, have to let go, right? In
yeah,
order to make it work.
yeah,
How does that work, right? Because I think
yeah,
whenever you let go of something, you need something else, right, to hold on to. And what
yeah,
was this kind of vision, or this kind of maybe image of a role, of a future role of an L&D or of an HR organization, that helped you here?
yeah. Um, so the whole journey started with the first sort of joint learning strategy. So I reached out into the organization, which had had all this kind of separate entities doing different things when it comes to learning, and brought the heads of learning together into a room, in fact, three times over three different, and together we built a strategy, and we really built one using physical things like bricks and stuff, because I think we'd never ever talked together about what we needed, and what L&D looked like. And we came up with five different parts of learning that we as a group needed to work on together. So that was the first thing. If you're in an organization that's somewhat decentralized, or has this sort of divisional structure, bringing those learning people together and establishing a common foundation of language, of commitment, of commonalities is important. And one of those, interestingly, that was brought up by them, so this is not me imposing anything, this is them coming with something, was what's the role of learning and development in the future? And they already identified that some of the things that facilitation was no longer the primary skill of an L&D professional. It was an important skill, but not the primary skill. And actually, there's an abundance of facilitation skills out there now. So, important, but not the. Program design becomes more and more important, but not in the way that it had in the past, where it was like, I need to know how to instructionally write. Program design now becomes more about the pedagogy, not the actual visual design, because generative AI is more and more able to support us in that. Digital marketing, engagement, awareness of what people need to be brought into the picture becomes a more important skill. So it was these types of things, and that was many years ago. So they were already aware that change was coming, but holding desperately onto their facilitation skills. That was, and I'm like, yeah, the problem is that now everyone's facilitating, and guess what, guys? You trained them, so celebrate that. Celebrate that you can now not just yourself facilitate, but you've created a world where every manager is facilitating and doing it well. And that's the trade-off, I think, that L&D needs to understand. The recognition is no longer going to be for you standing up in front of a group. The recognition is going to be for you enabling the business to achieve all of that stuff. And you'll be a rock star then. Like, then you'll be a rock star, because you'll really see the impact you're having. And you'll never have to apologize for it or be disappointed because you booked for 21 seats and you only got 12, or what other things that happen to L&D professionals when courses get cancelled at the last minute. You'll never have to worry about that now, because that's the manager that's doing that now. You just have to make sure the manager has the right skills to do it.
Wow.
This type of thing, I think, replaces it.
I think many people who listen will be like, okay, what type of managers do they have at DHL Group? Right? Because I think, most
managers who were trained by the L&D community.
Yeah, but how, right? I mean, I think most managers that I know in organizations, I think they would do tons of other things instead of really taking the responsibility for, developing their team and taking, ownership for learning. What did you do to them?
We certified them to start with. And it goes back to my earlier point. When you embed L&D into an overall cultural sort of perspective, so for a manager starting to develop to be a leader in our business, or firstly, if you're a frontline leader, so if you're a team leader or a frontline supervisor, you get the best management training ever, right? So it's better, I think, than the executive program. 18 months of outstanding experiences around communicating, engaging, building relationships, inspiring your people, creating a safe working environment. They do that. So the experience of the manager is, wow, learning really had an impact on me, and I want to have that impact on my people. And we do tricky little things like we embed in management programs this, do you want to be the one that lights up the room when you walk in, or do you want to be the one where the room lights up once you leave? And we give them these little moments of, what sort of leader do you really want to be? And don't get me wrong, we have leaders who still, blah blah blah. But I think they don't stay long in the company. I think they choose that this company, where we focus on growth and learning, is not one for leaders who don't support their people in that.
Wow.
But again, it takes a while.
Yeah, but I think it's so kind of future ready, right? Because I was talking one of the classes before to Siemens, and they just now realize, with this huge uncertainty in their business and these rapid changes in their business, it can only work in this decentralized way, right? It can only work if a leader is closer to the technology, who's closer to the clients, takes this lead. And I think, or I feel like many organizations are so far off that, right? Because managers got really used to outsource that to the HR department. And they are more like an outsourcing, kind of organizer, instead of being maybe this leader or this entrepreneur that you were talking about, who's taking, this responsibility on that. So props to you. I mean, this is a big one, I think. And maybe also looking towards the time that we still have 5 minutes. I want to touch a couple of those questions we got asked here. So maybe we start, with this first question that might be easy to answer. Which skill engine did you finally choose, right, from those 30?
Yeah. So we chose one called Clustry, which was then acquired by Cornerstone. So now it's Cornerstone that we use. It's the Cornerstone. They call it. Oh gosh, They call it a talent marketplace, I think.
Mm-hmm. And would your journey have worked without that career marketplace?
That's a
that
great question. Yeah. It's a really good question because I think our journey, no, because of our size and scope, right? We needed that automated technology to do it. It would have been impossible without it. I think, though, it is possible to do without the technology in the way that we've got it. I think you could do it with a smaller bite-sized version, or even honestly, if you were a very small SME or something, I think you could still do it with Excel or Power BI or something. But what you do need is the data. You have to have the data about your people, and there I say you can't do it without that data. You must somehow get your people's data.
Maybe coming to the last, how have you built your learning organization, as I suppose their role changed with the career marketplace?
Mm. Yeah. Has it? I think it has changed their role, but I think it's rather an add-on than a replacement. So, and we've heavily involved them from the very beginning. So we have what we call our success leads for this project. Those success leads are the ones making these lovely videos, and they are mostly L&D and talent people. So we've heavily involved them. We've given them a sense of ownership. They define the design. They make decisions about the direction, the number of people that go on, and how that happens. We are their hands, but they are the real owners of this project. And I see
Great.
there's one other question there, which I can also
Yeah.
briefly answer, which is about the
Yeah.
three elements. So actually those things, Learn and Grow, Certified First Choice, and the Career Marketplace, actually the fourth one, are all for everyone in DHL. So all our frontline as well as all of our office-based workers. Yeah.
Yeah, that's so interesting, right? Because you have this two worlds, if you want so, but we didn't touch it once in the conversation, right? It feels
No,
like,
yeah.
in many organizations, it's a big topic, direct, indirect workers, right? And I feel like in your world, it's not a problem, because I think, or I feel like at least everything is designed to work for everyone in that sense. And it's really about democratizing it.
Yeah, so exactly. And we use it, we really follow user journeys on this. So of course we have different personas, and our frontline persona does have a different experience to the office persona. But I've been on a campaign for quite some time now to remove the whole separation discussion, the blue collar, white collar rubbish. Stop it. No, we are all learners, and it's just a slightly different journey. It's not about your color of your collar. I don't even wear collars, so I don't even include there, I think.
Cool. In terms
Yeah.
of timing,
Yeah.
I want to give you one last question.
Yeah.
Where did you grow most in the last years, right? In order to be what you are today, and that's for me really a true pioneer in the L&D world. And we touched it when you came into this call. You'd be like, well, I'm feeling honored, to sit here and to talk about this, and I don't know why me, right? But there must be a reason, right? Why you are sitting here in our Good Morning L&D show, and we're talking with you about this amazing progress you achieved with the DHL Group, and I want to know how and where you needed to do this step up, and where you did kind of grow.
I have always had a background, and my study and everything was in learning and organizational learning and so forth, adult learning. I 5 years ago, for personal reasons, decided to move out of the heavy travel role that I had into a corporate center role with less travel, but it was a tech role, and I'd never worked in this technology space before. And I have to say that was probably the big moment for me, where I could take all of that learning stuff and go into a completely different environment, a complex environment, and it just made my brain go, "Wow!" like this. It just started sparking, and that was it. I found a happy place there. So yeah, that's my growth topic.
Wow, I think yeah, that's it, right? It's summarizing everything in a way. Yeah, you grew, DHL Group, I think, grew and grows, and you are role modeling this, right? You're living up to this, and you kind of walk the talk in that sense. So thank you so much for being with us today, Meredith. I learned so much. I mean, I have so many Post-its here on my table, and I assume everyone else in the call as well. Thank you for sharing your experience, your wisdom, your ups and downs on this roller coaster with us. Thank you all for joining. This was Good Morning L&D, and see you next time. Bye.
Bye.